Good evening, everyone. Can y'all hear me? All right. We will get started. This is our committee meeting to
Yeah, we can hear you.
bring forth the 2021 budget. I'm going to read my notes here. The budget that I presented to you was built with a fiscally responsible approach in mind. During the era of COVID, and while uncertainty exists around the stability of local sales tax revenues, the city of Conway is taking a conservative.
Now we can't. Are you talking?
Oh, you can't hear me?
I can.
I can't.
I can.
The budget that I presented to you was built with a fiscally responsible approach during the era of COVID.
Now I can't.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll start my second paragraph there. During the era of COVID, while uncertainty exists around the stability of a local sales tax revenue, the city of Conway is taking a conservative approach. This includes projecting flat sales tax and property tax revenue, forecasting reduced franchise fees, permit for events, park revenue, and shelving all capital expenditures at this time. In short, the 2021 budget has really no new monies in it. I did tell the department heads that if things look better, I'm not saying they look bad now, but we're just being conservative and being safe. Everything may work out fine. And if it does, then the department heads will be able to come to you mid-year to discuss capital expenditures. We're going to hold all of our open positions at this time until later in the year. Again, possibly mid-year on those. I remain optimistic about our local economy's resilience, but I believe it is necessary to take a fiscally responsible approach. And I think you'll see that a little bit better at the end of the regular council meeting tonight when I'm going to bring y'all up to speed on a couple of things going on here. There are a couple of things I want to draw your attention to. We began this year by we'll be putting $250,000 back to our general refund reserve fund like we did. That brings us halfway to our goal. That'll be $500,000 we put back in there. Earlier this year, we split the permits and code enforcement areas and merged them into a planning and physical plant, respectfully. This realignment is meant to integrate those functional areas more closely. So when you look at your budget and you see that those two departments have split and gone to different one, you'll know it is. We increased funding for training and travel in the police department. Chief Tapley, Chief Winter, and I have had productive conversations about remaining competitive with our uniform salaries. I have asked both of them to manage their overtime budgets carefully. We are looking at some strategic adjustments in police officer and fire engineer salaries with savings from overtime. And both chiefs will watch their overtime closely and will come back to the council if that becomes an issue. Later in the agenda, we will ask for your approval of a $500 Christmas bonus for full-time employees and a $250 Christmas bonus for part-time employees. I did not include a COLA this year. You know, the last 3 years we had a 3%, a 2%, and a 1.5%. I did not, but what I plan on doing is coming back before the council with an ordinance in January for a one-time 3% of salary bonus for our employees. That being said, that's my brief statements. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Winningham. He will walk you through the budget, and if you have any questions, we will do our best to answer them. Mr. Winningham.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everybody. Excuse me. I'm going to share my screen here so we can all kind of look at the same thing as we go along. You all, I believe, have individual copies of the budget. Let's see. Here we go. Can everybody see that okay? The first page?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, this is my 9th year to work for the city. This is my 10th budget to put together for the city, and I'll say this has been the hardest one so far. And you'll kind of see that as we go through it, as we talk about it. You know, all this year we've talked about how well we've weathered the pandemic with regards to our sales tax revenue. And indeed, sales tax revenue is up this year compared to last year, but it's virtually agreed upon. If you go talk to if you talk to our friends at Stevens that, keep an eye on the bond market and different revenue sources that support those bond issues, it's expected that before this pandemic is over with, that we will see that sales tax revenue go down. And just to kind of echo the mayor's comments about taking a conservative approach, that's what we've done here. I mean, we know we're not out of it yet, and we know that just as easily as we were up in sales tax this year, we could be down next year. So this page here just gives an overall general fund look. We can see that we budgeted for 2021 a very, very small surplus, 14,500. And you can see in the past couple of years, if you look at our 18 and 19 actuals, we've had some events come up where we have ended up spending some general fund reserve, which just kind of reinforces our intent to be conservative going forward. In 2018 was when we officially settled the police and fire sales tax lawsuit, which was about $1 million outlay. So you can see there, prior to that, we were having a pretty good year. And then going forward in 19 into this year, everybody knows we had the opportunity to work an agreement with Conway Corp to get out of the former city hall and into the new city hall, and renovating that building has been an expense that we've had to utilize reserves to cover. But like the mayor mentioned, also, we do have a plan in place and a plan that we're currently carrying out to pay back our general fund reserve. So moving on to revenues, you'll see virtually every revenue category is down compared to what we had budgeted for 2020. We budgeted all of our sales taxes flat, which is sales tax, and then beverage tax, we've actually projected it to be down. The beverage tax kind of ties in very closely with A&P tax. So as restaurants are limited in their capacity, and as they were shut down prior this year, the beverage tax has seen a drop because of that. Planning and permit revenue is down. The thought there is that the building in Conway is starting to slow down somewhat. The uptick we had seen prior to now this year, we think was due to projects that were already in the pipe, so to speak. And that carried out. And then as those projects were completed and everybody was, we were well into the pandemic, then those projects kind of started to slow down. And then, you also had construction, I believe, was deemed an essential service. So they were able to keep working, but I think they did experience some, certainly some challenges in continuing to do those. Franchise fees were projecting to be down as well. The electric franchise, which is this one here, as our industrial partners in town, as they see, limited ability to work, that affects the electricity that's used in those big facilities. And then we are projecting a reduction in the cable TV revenue. You can see 800,000. We had budgeted that up just a little bit over what we had actually collected in 19. And then you can see back in 2018, it was just over 800,000. The cable TV, that's an area where, the common phrase is cutting the cord. A lot of people are getting away from cable TV and going to just streaming services. So to be conservative there, we're projecting a slight decrease from 800,000 down to 700,000. The public safety, here's the total number for the public safety group, 419,950. That's up just due to the 911 fees. You can see they took a pretty big jump, and we really had no control over that one. The state of Arkansas increased the 911 fee that is on phone bills. So that's a direct correlation to there. And then you can see our Parks and Rec revenue is down as well, just for, again, like we've talked about, limited ability to have our for athletic and recreational programs. And then our miscellaneous revenues, interest revenue, we're projecting to be down slightly, not because we've lost a rate or anything. We still get a really good rate with Centennial, but that number is tied to cash on hand. And like we've talked about, we don't have quite as much in reserves as we have had, so we're projecting a slight decrease there. Overall, general fund revenue up a very small $18,400. Does anybody have any questions or comments on revenues before we move forward? Okay. We'll look at general fund expenditures. This is a department summary. We didn't really want to get too far down into the weeds with you guys unless you just had something specific you wanted to look at. Here you can see that 7 out of the 16 departments are down in their budgeted expenditures compared to 2020. This is what I was talking about. This is the hardest budget we've worked on. In prior years, we were able to fit in a COLA. We had some sales tax growth, and we still had to make some cuts along the way, but the cuts were very much more difficult to come by this time, while still, keeping our line items at a point to where our department heads felt like they could operate and provide the service that Conway citizens are accustomed to. You can see our total expenditures are up $128,000, which is 0.3%. So, basically a flat budget when you're talking percentage wise for the general fund. Does anybody have any questions or comments on general fund expenditures? I know the mayor hit some of the details of things that we've gotten in and not gotten, that we were not able to put in. Does anybody have anything that they wanted to discuss? Okay, we'll move along to street fund. You can see we're budgeting a surplus deficit of 0, essentially a balanced budget in the street fund. Revenues up slightly, $210,000. The severance tax, that revenue stream has really taken a dive again this year. In fact, we've had a month or two where there was not any revenue received. So to be conservative here in the street fund, I just took that number out. And then if we do happen to see any severance tax revenue in 21, then that'll just be some extra insurance, some extra cushion for us. This number here, the state turnback wholesale, is a new tax that was passed back in 2019 on the wholesale market for gas and diesel. And when the state gives us our turnback revenue each month, that number is broken out separately. So we created a separate line item in our accounting as well to match that number up to what the state shows. Street fund expenditures, not a whole lot to discuss there. You can see Finley did take $150,000 from the street paving and reconstruction and thought that would be best allocated to the line right above it, street sidewalk repair and maintenance. So took that budget from $50,000 to $200,000. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what he has planned for that, but I'm sure if anybody wanted more detail on that and wanted to reach out to Finley, I'm sure he could provide that for you. And then again, just not a whole lot, not a whole lot of variances, not a whole lot of moving parts down in the rest of the expenditures. You can see we come down to that 0 net revenue or a balanced budget, as we also say. Does anybody have any questions or comments on street fund before we move forward? Okay, we'll go on to sanitation. Sanitation as well. We are projecting a balanced budget for 21, no surplus, no deficit. The staff out at sanitation projected a slight decrease in their revenue for sanitation fee collection. That is due to, again, due to the COVID-19 pandemic. As businesses are limited in their operation, our commercial waste collection goes down. So you see a direct effect there from one to the other. So they thought it best to lower that revenue projection and then also lower the recycled materials budget as well, just based on market conditions for the sale of recyclables right now. And again, not a whole lot of changes. They did make, we reduced their capital budget quite a bit in some areas to get everything balanced. And other than that, not a whole lot to talk about there unless does anybody have any questions or comments on sanitation before we move forward? Okay, move on to the airport. Our airport fund, it was a difficult one as well. They've got, limited, the fuel sales have been down this year compared to prior years. They're showing just a very, very modest surplus, budgeted a little over $500. You can see we have lowered the revenue projection for fuel sales. And then we had to adjust expenditures down as well, just to get a balanced budget. So of course, if fuel sales are down, then our fuel that we buy for resale will also be down. So we lowered that budget from $650,000 to $600,000. And then that gets them down to that $500 budgeted surplus for 2021. Any questions or comments there before we move on? Next thing we'll look at are our special revenue funds. I'll just point out a couple of highlights here. I'll skip over looking at it's actually at the bottom of this page. So you can see here we've lowered the revenue projection for our A&P sales tax revenue. That's about 17% reduction there. And then you can see in years past, so in 2019, we had a revenue projection, $3,620,000, expense budget of $2,260,000, which left us about $1.4 million that could have been allocated during the year for projects as they come up. In 2021, we're not going to have that luxury. We've got a $3,020,000 revenue budget. And then we've identified already $3,020,000 in expenditures that we feel need to be done. Part of that is some debt service. So these transfers to other funds is essentially our bond payment. That's a little over $1 million a year. And then that also factors in the transfer to the general fund that we do for the operation at the Expo Center. And then the principal and interest payments you see here, those are for the 5-year loan that we had, that we have outstanding, where we finished out the front part of that building to make the meeting rooms and so forth. And then we have items in the capital line items that the Parks Department feels are necessary to be done in 2021. Moving on to the other sales tax revenues, we projected those flat as we did in the general fund. So you can see pay-as-you-go sales tax, we're projecting no increase there. The street sales and use tax that was passed in 2018, we're projecting no increase there. And then finally, last page is just a summary of what our debt service requirements will be in 2021. And then it also notates what the funding source is for those bond issues. And that concludes my comments. So again, I'll be glad to answer any questions or discuss anything further if the council wishes.
Council, you have any questions for Mr. Winningham or myself?
Yeah, this is David.
Hey,
That's a very good overview, Bart and Tyler. Thank you all for that. Like you said, different kind of year to deal with. Typically, we have some increase in the revenue budget to work with, but I think it is very prudent this year to not go that route and take another look mid-year. I've made some notes, and Tyler, I'll probably give you a call tomorrow or maybe next week to talk about a couple of specifics. But overall, y'all did a pretty good job. All the departments head did.
Yeah, the department heads have done really well. David, especially since we started cutting back due to COVID, they've really done a good job and worked hard to keep their expenditures down, and they've been very understanding about 2021. We have a great group of department heads. All right. Anything else?
I just want to say thank you, because this is some tough times now, and it's something I've never been through in my life, and I just hope we can come out on the other side of it.
Yeah, I'll share something, Mr. Jones, at the end of the council meeting with you guys to bring you up to speed on something that kind of reiterates just a little bit about why we're being so cautious. All right, we'll take a break, and I will see everyone back here at 6:30. Thank you so much for your time, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we had our budget. Can you listen to me? We started
Good evening, everyone. We always precede each council meeting with a word of prayer, the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would like, please feel free to join us. Ms. Isby, could I ask you to word our Thanksgiving prayer, please, ma'am?
I will be more than happy to. If you'll bow with me. Our gracious Father, we thank you for.
We always precede each council meeting with a word of prayer, the Pledge of Allegiance.
If you'll bow with me. Our gracious Father, we thank you for this time of Thanksgiving that you've blessed us with. We thank you, Lord, for this city that we are fortunate enough to be stewards of. And we just ask, Lord, that in the middle of everything that's going on, that we always find a reason to give thanks. We ask, Lord, that everything within this meeting will be done in your sight and that you'll get the glory. And it's in your name that we pray. Amen.
I, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now call this meeting to order. Ms. Hurd, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hawkins? Mr. Grimes?
Here.
Mr. Pruitt?
Here.
Ms. Mel?
Here.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Here.
Ms. Smith? Mr. Jones?
Here.
Ms. Isby?
Here.
Okay, you should have received copies of the city council minutes for November 10th, 2020. Any corrections, changes, or comments?
Make a motion for approval as submitted. Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. If there's no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes 6-0. First up, we have our monthly financial report ending October 31st. Mr. Winningham.
Yes, sir. You can see, looking on the revenue and expenditures for the general fund, you can see there in the month activity column for the ad valorem tax, we got our first fall influx of the property tax due to the folks in the county coming in and paying those bills, trying to beat that October 15th deadline, trying to keep their name out of the paper. So we got a good number there. The payments in lieu of tax, that number is overstated at this time. Between now and the end of the year, we will be remitting those, most of that back to the county and get that number down to closer to where it should be. The insurance turnback for lot fee, the fourth line item down in revenues, we are finished with recording that for the year now at this time. So you can see we came in, just under 70,000 over what we had budgeted. So we hit that, pegged that number pretty good. When you get to sales tax, we kind of hit on this. In our last meeting, we usually get the current month numbers right about the time we have the second meeting of the month, but I'll go over them again. For the month, it was up 5%. And then for year to date, we're up 4.8%. The general fund expenditures, again, the common theme every month, I don't really count the admin expenditures because they do include the remodel expense for 1111 Main Street, and that would kind of skew the numbers when you look back and compare this year to last year. But if you look at our other operating departments, expenditures are down 7%. So spending freeze still in effect, and departments are continuing to do a really, really good job of managing those expenditures. I think that's all I've got on the general fund to talk about. Does anybody have any questions or comments on it before we move forward? All right, we'll move on down to street fund. Street fund expenditures are down this month, year to date, compared to last year. I mentioned this at the last meeting, and I'll just remind everybody. At this point last year, we started having some pretty big bills come in for some big projects that had been that the department had been working on mainly the Tyler Street improvements. So that's why if you were to look back at expenditures in October of 19, we're down almost $1 million this year compared to last year, and that is the reason for that. So street fund has a pretty good bottom line, net revenue, almost $500,000 coming into the end of the year. Any questions or comments on street fund?
That is real good considering the amount of asphalt we put down this year.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Sanitation fund, not a whole lot to talk about there. No real big numbers that jump out. And then for the airport fund, again, expenditures there down about 25% compared to last year due to the lower fuel sales. So therefore our expenditures are down as well. Hopefully, we do have a positive bottom line there of $83,000. Hopefully that number gets a good bit better between now and the end of the year, because you can see with our ground leases, those are set to renew usually in the third to fourth quarter of the year. We've only collected 44% of our budget so far, and between now and the end of the year, we can hopefully make that number whole and put some money back into the airport reserve going into 2021. And then the last page of the financials shows the balance of our major project funds. And you can see all of those funds have healthy balances coming into the end of the year. And hopefully, if we need those in 2021, they'll be there for us. And that concludes my comments. Be happy to answer any questions or discuss anything further if the council wishes.
Council, any questions? Okay, back to you. I'll take a motion, please.
I move for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the monthly financial report ending October 31st, 2020. Any further discussion? Ms. Hurd.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Passes 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Winningham.
Yes, sir.
Next, we have the Economic Development Committee, and we have Mr. Lacey and Mr. Gates, and I think Gordon Wilburn on here with us. The first one up is a resolution certifying local government endorsement of the Structural and Mass Timber Corporation to participate in the Arkansas Tax Back Program. Mr. Lacey, are you or Mr. Wilburn going to address this? You're muted, Brad.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, my internet went down for a second, so I'm not sure what you said.
We're talking about structural and
Okay,
certifying their ability to participate.
the tax
in the
back
Arkansas
program.
Tax Back Program. Yes.
yeah. Okay, so tax back is the program that allows companies to get a refund on the city's portion of sales tax that they might pay on materials associated with their new location or an expansion. It's been customary for us to refund that back to companies, and Structural Am is kind of in the home stretch of their facility. They do have a plant manager. They are hiring people, and I would expect them to continue to do that into the first quarter of next year, because they have some sort of hard deadlines that they have to meet on production to get some of that first product up to the home office construction site. So we would appreciate you guys approving the tax back incentive.
Council, any questions for Mr. Lacey?
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution endorsing Structural and Mass Timber Corporation to participate in the Arkansas Tax Back Program. Any further discussion? Ms. Hurd.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed?
Passes 6-0. What number was that, Ms. Hurd? Resolution? That's okay.
R 2081.
R 2081. Thank you. And next up is a resolution of intent for issuing bonds for an industrial facility to be located within the city of Conway. Again, we have Mr. Wilborn and Mr. Lacy here to speak to that.
Gordon, I'll go first, and then if you want to add anything. This is a project that we've been working on for about a year from our first contact with them. As you'll see, it's not to exceed $95 million, so it is a large project. It's distribution. They're not obviously ready to go public with name yet or any of the particulars on job numbers, but it's significant. We're still working on some sort of final details. Company officials were here last week. We had a very, very good working meeting with really many of the people on this call tonight. So the mayor had a team assembled there with Finley and James and Felicia and Aaron and the chief, and just had a really good working meeting with them as we would move forward. And this would be the standard industrial revenue bond that the city has typically done on projects like this. This gives them the property tax abatement of 65% on those improvements, land, building, equipment. And I would hope that we would sort of close on all of this early next year and probably hopefully at that point do a formal announcement. But it is really an exceptional project, and for it to have not fallen off the radar in the middle of a global pandemic is pretty amazing. So there'll be if we can close the gap, it'll be a great addition to the city, a great name to add to the city. We do have a couple of things we're working through, and we'll probably come back and maybe need some additional help from Conway Corp and or the city on some infrastructure issues. But this is an important step in the process for us.
I would add, just you guys have done this a number of times before. This is just an inducement resolution. We would be back in the future with an actual bond ordinance. This just expresses the intent of the city to assist in this project.
This is good news for Conway if we can keep it moving forward.
Make a motion for the adoption of the resolution, and I have it as resolution 82.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution of intent for issuing bonds for an industrial facility to be located within the city of Conway. There's not any further discussion. Ms. Hurd.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Passes 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Wilborn,
Thank you.
Mr. Lacy.
Thank you, guys. Have a great Thanksgiving.
You too.
As well.
All right. Next up, we have community development and Mr. Hawkins. Glad to see you here, sir. We will turn this over to you.
Andy here.
Is Andy online there?
He's on mute.
Hey, Andy, you're muted, and your video is off as well. Be glad when we get back to meeting together, we won't have to worry about all this technology.
It's worked pretty well so far, though.
It has. We've taken care of business and kept things moving forward. It has, and it looks like we're probably going to be here for some time. Well, I'll tell you what. I will start, and when Mr. Hawkins joins, I will gladly turn it over to him. First up, we have a resolution requesting that the Faulkner County Tax Collector place a lien against property located at 215 Griffith Street for expenses incurred by the city. Mr. Spencer Clausen is here. If you have any questions about that property, and if not, council, I'll give you just a moment. And if there's no questions from council, then I will open the floor up to anyone who is associated with that property would like to speak. Okay, is anyone who is associated with the property at 215 Griffith Street here to speak? Okay, council, it's back to you. It's in the amount of $664.93.
Make a motion for the adoption of resolution R 2083.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve this resolution for property located at 215 Griffith Street in the amount of $664.93. Any questions or further discussion? Ms. Hurd.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed?
Passes 6-0. Next up, we have a resolution requesting that the Faulkner County Tax Collector place a lien against property located at 335 Davis Street for expenses incurred by the city. Again, Mr. Clausen is online if you would like to ask him a question. This is a fairly significant one. It's in the amount of, it's on 335 Davis, and it is the amount of $2,089.76. Would anyone representing the property like to address the council? Council, it's back to you.
Make a motion for the adoption of the resolution R 2084.
Second.
And Spencer, thank your group for all the hard work. They did a lot of work there.
Yeah, they're doing a great job. We have a
Yes, ma'am, they did. Thank you very much.
We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution, placing a lien on property located at 335 Davis in the amount of $2,089.76. Any further discussion? Ms. Hurd.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
This is 6-0. Mr. Hawkins, are you with us? Okay, we're still having some technical difficulties there. We see you're trying to make it. Next up, we have an ordinance appropriating funds from the Arkansas Department of Transportation for the Oak Street Adaptive Project for the Transportation Department. And we have Mr. Vincent on there. Mr. Findley, tell us what you know.
Yes, sir. Thank you. This is just an ordinance accepting and appropriating grant funds for the Oak Street Adaptive Project.
Tell us a little bit about that project, Finley, just kind of what we're talking about it doing.
Sure thing. So this project actually is nearly identical to the one we completed recently on Dave Ward. It's a signalization project that, well, in short, it's just an additional technology to provide better progression and timing on the corridor. And it involves both hardware installed in the ground and at the signal cabinet, as well as additional software that's used to time the lights adaptively. So the hardware counts the traffic on the fly and makes changes to the signal timing also on the fly. And it's the latest and greatest in signal technology. Like I said, we just finished the project on Dave Ward, and we're working on the engineering for Oak Street and hope to have it installed next year.
Thank you, Mr. Benson.
Yes, sir.
Make a motion that we waive the 3 readings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 6-0.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance. And Ms. Hurd, what number would that be?
This is O 2067.
Thank you very much.
I have a motion. I'll take a second from someone.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance appropriating funds for the Arkansas Department of Transportation for the Oak Street Adaptive Project. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I got a comment, man. That's been long overdue, and I really appreciate this because the one on Dave Ward works great, man. If we can get that up to speed with that, we'll be doing. Thanks.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. As a matter of fact, when I came to the city 11 years ago, I had only been working here for a few months before I identified that this was the most important project to me in the city. And the reason we moved forward with Dave Ward first was because the state supported that grant wholeheartedly, and so we decided to go where the money was. But I'm really looking forward to this one.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
Yes,
Mr. Thank you, Mr. Jones, Mr. Benson. Okay. Any further discussion? Ms. Hurd?
Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Grimes,
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter,
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt,
Aye.
Ms. Isby.
Yes.
Passes 6-0. Mr. Hawkins, I will turn this over to you, and I like what you're doing with your hair.
Well, I've been working on it, Mr. Mayor, and I'm sorry that I missed a lot of this meeting this evening, and I do apologize to all of my fellow council members. Let's see. I think we just did B4. Is that correct?
We are on B4 right now.
Very good. It's an ordinance appropriating grant. And by the way, Mr. Mayor, you did a fabulous job.
Well, thank you.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance appropriating grant funds from the Arkansas Department of Transportation for Conway Transportation Department. And it's in the amount of $748,199 for Markham Street. Mr. Vincent, I bet you're sticking around to tell us about this, aren't you?
Yes, sir. It's pretty straightforward. As you said, it is an ordinance accepting and appropriate grant funds for the Markham Street project, which is going well.
Very good. I passed by there a bunch, and it is progressing quite nicely now.
It's a complex project, and the contractors made a lot of progress in these months.
Seems like we had to redo a lot of things underground in the early part of this project, Mr. Vinson. Is that right?
That's correct, and it's ongoing. Conway Corporation has had a lot to do.
And that first phase of it, we had a lot of rain that really set us back there for a while. And then COVID showed up. So yeah, it seems to be progressing nicely right now.
I make a motion that we waive the 3 readings.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? That passes 6-0. I'm
Make a
sorry,
motion.
7-0. No, 6-0. I got it. 6-0. All right.
I make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance 02068.
Okay, that's right. All right.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance appropriating grant funds for the Markham Street Jumpstart Project. Any further discussion? And there was 7 votes on the last one.
Mhm.
Ms. Hurd?
Mr. Pruitt,
Aye. Sorry.
Mr. Grimes,
Aye.
Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Isby,
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins.
Yes.
That passes 7-0. Mr. Hawkins?
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution approving professional engineering and support services for a hydrology and hydraulic study for downtown drainage and assist with submission of the 2020 FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant for Conway Transportation Department. Mr. Vincent, I know you didn't stick around just because we're good looking, so I bet you're going to tell us something about this.
Well, I figured you might like to know. So this is,
I'd love to.
yes, sir. This is as it says, a FEMA hazard mitigation grant that is available to us. And what we are proposing applying for is the grant is actually for the professional services. So the grant, if awarded, will pay the bill to perform a study and provide preliminary plans for the downtown drainage basin. Sure, we're all aware of some complex drainage problems we have in that area. And if awarded, this grant would provide the funds to do a detailed study analysis of the downtown drainage area, as well as I said, of provide preliminary plans for a potential solution. So we're proposing to go ahead and secure a contract with the engineer because there's advantages to doing that on the front end. They can help us with some of the details for the grant application. But like I said, we won't actually move forward with the task order unless we win the grant.
And the total amount of the grant is $194,000. If it's awarded, the grant would be for $145,500. The city would be responsible for $48,500 of that.
Make
All
a
right, Kim.
motion for the adoption of the resolution R2085.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution for submission of the 2020 FEMA grant. Any further discussion? It is a resolution. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Ms. Hurd.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Passes 7-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance amending sections 2011 and 2013 of the Conway Development Code to rezone some property. This particular property is out on Madison Road. It's at 1160 Madison and 3175 Donald Ridge Road. The current zoning is A1, and the owners would like to zone this R1. We have a ordinance before you. It's ordinance 020.
69.
Thank you, 69.
Make a motion that we waive the 3 readings.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance 02069.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance to rezone property located at 1160 Madison Road and 3175 Donald Ridge Road from R1 to A1. Any further discussion? Ms. Hurd.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
That passes 7-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Let's see, Mr. Mayor. I was looking down the road. That is the last one I think that I have. Hang on just a second. That is the last one that I have on my agenda that I have access to, Mr. Mayor. For something further, would you mind taking that for me?
I know. The next one is a consideration to modify an existing conditional use permit allowing religious assembly at 1109 Gum Street. And Mr. Walden is here to address that for us.
Yeah, there's nothing changing about the site except the name on the sign. So it is going from Father's House Church, I think, to Camino de Vida. And the planning department's practice has been on any future conditional uses that we are taking the owner out of it and allowing it to be regardless of who it is to serve that use, simply for this reason, because this is we're nothing's changing on the site. We're just reapproving it based on a change in occupancy.
Thank you, Mr. Walden.
With that, I'll make a motion to approve the request for modification. And I've noticed under the conditions they've marked through that it's limited to the Father's House Church.
Okay,
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Isby. I have a motion and a second to approve this conditional use permit. Any further discussion? Ms. Hurd.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed?
Passes 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. I see you're with us in real time now.
Well, I'm not sure what I did, but you're welcome.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have our Public Service Committee, which is the Physical Plant, Parks and Rec, and Sanitation. And tonight we have the Sanitation Department here for a resolution to accept a donation from the Faulkner County Solid Waste District for the Department of Sanitation. And we have Mr. Hopper and Mr. Bell online with us. Gentlemen.
Good evening.
I think Jack, I don't know if Jack's going to be here this evening or not. Up for consideration by the council is basically a trade between or a donation rather from the solid waste district of a 20 by 30 foot storage building that was built on the city's property in 2016. We're actually giving them a 2012 JCB skid steer and a 2008 loading ramp that's used for e-waste to help them with their e-waste drives. I think it'd be a excellent, addition to our department with the with the e-waste. The HHW program coming up. That's going to limit some of our storage, and this will allow us to have some additional storage when that program starts.
Make a motion for the adoption of the resolution, and I have it as R 2086.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution to accept a donation from the Faulkner County Solid Waste District to the Department of Sanitation. Any further discussion? Ms. Hurd.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is an ordinance or Public Safety Committee is ordinance authorizing the restructuring or reclassifications of certain titles for the Office of City Attorney. And I think Mr. Clausen is going to start. Mr. Clausen.
Well, with the impending transition, which we're obviously in full swing, for me to leave the city attorney's office, and Charles, which has already been appointed by you to take effect January the 1st, we've been looking at all aspects of the office, and I've been really pleased with some of the ideas that Charles has come up with. The one that's before you tonight, Mr. Finkenbinder found a straightforward, budget neutral way to restructure the office, which provides for a more efficient use of resources and personnel. And so I was going to let him kind of explain exactly what he's proposing in the ordinance.
Mr. Finkenbinder.
Yeah, so I think everyone's familiar and is aware on some level of, over the years, the multiple improvements that Chuck has made to the city attorney's office, both in restructuring and adding positions, which I can tell you has dramatically increased the efficiency, not only of the office, but its responsiveness to the citizens and the department heads and the different city employees that we assist. And so what this really does is it just takes the next logical step, which is to have the administrative staff, there's kind of an equalization in a budget neutral way. So there'll be 3 administrative positions rather than having them split into different office manager, administrative position 1. And what this is really going to achieve is not only a fairness that Chuck has been committed to throughout his entire tenure, but it's also going to allow us to be even more efficient when we're dealing with 2 different district court divisions and a circuit court division that will have 2 or 3 different circuit judges. So we really need someone to be assisting in circuit court, just like we need one for each of the district court divisions, particularly in light of the programs, the public safety programs that Chuck has initiated, like the school bus safety program. It's put a lot of extra work on the staff, and this division is going to spread that work out more equitably.
Any questions for Mr. Clausen or Mr. Finkenbinder?
Mr. Finkenbinder, thank you for that work on that. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins.
Make a motion that we waive the 3 readings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance of 2070.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance for the reclassification for the Office of the City Attorney. Any further discussion? Ms. Hurd.
Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Ms. Isby,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt,
Aye.
Mr. Grimes,
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter,
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins.
Yes.
I got 6 votes on that. Mr. Pruitt, what was your vote?
Aye.
Passes 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Finkenbeiner. Good
Thank you,
job.
Mr. Mayor.
Next up, we have an ordinance appropriating insurance proceeds for the building maintenance for the Conway Fire Department, and we have Chief Winter online for this.
Thank you, Mayor. Earlier this summer, when one of the hurricanes, tropical storms moved through, it took the roof with it at Central Station. And we have made an insurance claim, and they have paid $26,765 to help us pay for those repairs. And we're asking to accept that.
Make a motion that we waive the 3 readings.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
Make a motion for the adoption of ordinance number 02071 along with the emergency clause.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance with the emergency clause appropriating insurance proceeds for the Central Fire Station building for maintenance, Conway Fire Department. Any further discussion? Ms. Hurd.
Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt,
Aye.
Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Ms. Isby,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Grimes,
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter,
Yes.
and the emergency clause, Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt,
Aye.
Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Ms. Isby,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Grimes,
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter.
Yes.
Okay, roll call passed 7-0 and the emergency clause passed 7-0. Thank you, Chief Winter. Next up, we have an ordinance approving bid for a mobile ammunition combustion system for the fire department bomb squad. Chief Winter.
Yes, in the about a month ago, we came before you, asked you to accept a Homeland Security grant for a little over $450,000. In that grant was budgeted for an ammunition disposal unit. And we went to bid, only one facility bid. It came back at $350,725.15. And we're asking to accept that bid.
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
Make a motion that we waive the 3 readings.
there we go. I was about to get stuck.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank-
Motion.
Thank you,
and a
Mrs.
second to
Yeah,
waive
don't
the
use
3
it.
readings. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance 02072.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance for the approving the bid for the mobile ammunition combustion system for the bomb squad. Any further discussion? Ms. Hurd.
Ms. Isby,
Yes.
Mr. Grimes,
Aye.
Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter,
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt.
Aye.
Passes 7-0. Thank you, Chief Winter.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
Next up, we have an ordinance appropriating funds for the employee appreciation bonuses. And council, we are asking for an increased number this year. We're asking for $500 for our full-time employees and $250 for our part-time employees. Would like to say that our employees have done a tremendous job this year under some trying circumstances. They've shown up for work and taken care of the people of Conway and done a tremendous job. And I know that each of y'all think they are doing a tremendous job too. And I would like for us to reward them with a little bit better Christmas bonus this year.
Make a
You got
motion.
them? Go ahead, Ms.
Go ahead,
I
Ms.
was
Hall.
going to make a motion to waive the 3 readings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to waive the three readings. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
Mr. Hawkins, did you have a question?
I do have a question. Where our money is okay in our general fund for this? Is Mr. Winningham with us tonight?
He is Mr. Winningham.
Yes, Mr. Hawkins, we do. We have the funds on hand to cover that.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Winningham.
Yes, sir.
And as usual, to be clear, this Christmas bonus does include full-time elected employees, elected officials, but not part-time elected officials. Is that correct?
No, Mr. Grimes, this year I included the part-time elected officials as well. With everything that's been going on, you guys have been working hard too. It's up to y'all, but I did include you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Council is back to you.
I'll make
Make
a
a
motion
motion for adoption.
with the emergency clause, Mr. Ledbetter.
Yes.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance for the employee appreciation bonuses with the emergency clause. Any further discussion? Ms. Hurd.
This is O 2073. Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
Mr. Grimes,
Aye.
Mr. Pruitt,
Aye.
Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Ms. Isby,
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
and the emergency clause, Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
Mr. Grimes,
Aye.
Mr. Pruitt,
Aye.
Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Ms. Isby,
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter,
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Those both passed 7-0. And council, my reasoning behind that is because I'm fixing to finish up my fourth year. And in that fourth year, I have really got a good view of what you guys have to do to keep the city running. And I want you to know that I appreciate that. And this city couldn't run without you. And so I appreciate the job y'all do.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have an ordinance accepting and appropriating the coronavirus relief funding. I've said that so many times in the last year, you would think I'd stumble with that. For the city of Conway, and Ms. Jamie Bryce will speak to this.
Thank you, Mayor. The state of Arkansas allocated just over, well, I'll say it, $2.3 million to the city of Conway for COVID relief funding. This is basically an accounting ordinance. We are requesting you to appropriate these funds, but it's a strict reimbursement ordinance. So these are for expenditures that we've already incurred throughout 2020.
Make a motion that we waive the three readings.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to waive the three readings. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance O 2074.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion?
Ms. Bryce,
Yes, sir.
I think it'd be a good time to maybe let us know what that $2.3 million, what we did with that.
Yes, sir. So I worked closely with Arkansas Municipal League as well as North Little Rock and Fayetteville, and they all recommended highly that we use these funds to reimburse the salary for our emergency for the police and fire.
Okay.
So it was strictly 100% reimbursing the salary.
Cool. And
Yes, sir.
there was that much salary involved with this?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And I appreciate the work that our people did in this particular situation.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Hurd.
Mr. Pruitt,
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter,
Yes.
Mr. Grimes,
Aye.
Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
Ms. Isby.
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Thank you, Jamie. Okay, next up, council is a resolution of our voluntary levy of our taxes. This is just a general housekeeping procedure that we go through every year. None of the millages have increased. They are the same. This just lets the Faulkner County assessor know what they need to collect. I'm going to punt to Mr. Clausen here. Mr. Clausen, can we do them all as one, or do we need to do them individually?
I think a motion to approve all resolutions since they remain the same will be appropriate.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve all these resolutions as one. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That passes 7-0. Mr. Clausen, you'll have to help me through this here. I think the first one is a resolution of 2/10 of a mil for the animal shelter. The next one is 4/10 of a mil for public recreation and playground. Number 3 is 4/10 of a mil for cemeteries. Number 4 is 4/10 of a mil for the police pension and relief fund. Number 5 is 4/10 of a mil for the firemen's police and pension fund. Number 6 is 4/10 of a mil for non-uniformed employees. Number 7 is 3 mils for the general fund revenues. And with that, I'll take a motion to approve all of those.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve all of our millages for the upcoming year. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes 7-0. And that is all of our regular business. I just want to give you all a brief rundown on a few things that's going on. And I talked about in the budget meeting, we'd be discussing some of these. Been in meetings today with some of our healthcare professionals, as well as Chief Winter and Captain Ledbetter from the fire department. One of our hospitals is going to be making more room in one of their wings. So they are moving their surgical patients out of the main hospital into another one of their facilities. But they are doing that due to the surge that we are seeing in Conway with coronavirus. I have to be very careful about HIPAA here, but I think it's a good idea on their part. And what I really need to bring you up to speed with is our contract with MIMS requires that they have 2 advanced life support units in Conway and then transfer units. In order for MIMS to be able to help this hospital move their non-ambulatory patients from the hospital to their other facility here in Conway, then that's going to tie up on the MIMS units. I gave them permission today to allow their basic life support unit to also respond as a primary care response for emergencies that are not life-threatening. Those still require an advanced life support unit, ALS unit. This will be a BLS unit. It will be handled through the MIMS dispatch, and the dispatcher will make the decision as to what type of call it is. But this will free up another piece of equipment for them so that they can handle transfers within the city. And if any of you wish me to talk to them about doing something different, please let me know, and I'd be glad to. But I think this is something that needs to be addressed, and we need to allow MIMS to do that. Any comments or thoughts?
Are our number of calls up in that area, Mr. Mayor?
I'm going to let Mr. Captain Ledbetter, Captain COVID Cowboy, as we call him, address it. Mr. Ledbetter, Junior.
Thank you, Mayor. So as far as our call volume is concerned, we're not seeing an increased call number as far as COVID is related. We are seeing a pretty big increase in COVID active cases throughout the county overall, and the hospitalizations are way up. People delayed treatment early on in the pandemic, and you can't delay healthcare. It's eventually going to catch up to you. So all of those delayed calls early on are now finally catching up. We are seeing the increasing call volume as opposed to early on. And these ambulances in a non-pandemic time are stretched thin. There are times when we have to get an ambulance out of Valonia or Greenbrier or sometimes out of Pulaski County. And by doing this, it will possibly free up some of the ALS ambulances to get to scenes quicker in the city.
Yeah, and the hospitals, this is not all COVID related, council. A lot of this is if you recall when the pandemic first started, a lot of your elective surgeries and things, procedures that could waited. Well, those have come full circle and folks are getting those procedures now. So I don't want you to think this is all entirely due to COVID. There's just, the hospitals are still just taking care of regular business like they always do. But unfortunately, due to the pandemic, it's kind of stacked up on them here for a while. So that kind of brings you up to speed on that. Any questions or thoughts on that, council?
I think it's good to have another unit around.
Yeah, I do too. Okay, thank you, council. On that, we'll move to the next one. Got a couple more. Miss Mel will help me with this one. The Ministry Center, which has been in operation for some time, has been working on getting a new location. Of course, you know, the city has purchased some property and we're going to be donating that hopefully to someone who will run it for us. But historically, during the bad cold weather, we have allowed them to open it up as a warming center for specific dates. And this year, since the Ministry Center building has sold, they do not have a building. Miss Mel has been working very hard with the Ministry Center, as well as Felicia and Kiera, trying to find a place. We had a couple of prospects, but one of them is right in the middle of a neighborhood, a block from a school, and no one really felt good about that. I really feel like they have exhausted all of their remedies. And so today, Ms. Mel and I spoke for a little bit. We wanted to bounce it off the council. We thought about if it's okay with the council using the Owens complex for a warming center for 1 year, this year only, because we'll have a facility open ourselves next year, as will the Ministry Center. The only winter activity that will affect will be basketball. Everyone else that's using that facility, and Felicia's online too, if you have any questions for her, that would allow, like I said, winter basketball will be affected, but everyone else who's got something they will do will have to just spend a little time out at the McGee Center. This is something that, as a city, that we've worked on for a long time, and hopefully with the purchase of the property on Gum Street, we're on our last year of having to deal with this. But cold weather affects families, and I just think it's prudent as us as a city to help those that are less fortunate.
So are we talking about closing the Don Owens Center completely to regular activities?
We are, Mr. Grimes, from December 14th to February 28th, and there are some precautions that'll have to be taken there as well that Mr. Ledbetter will be working on.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm open for discussion on this. Miss Mel, would you like to jump in anytime? Because it is going to stop folks who like to go out there and walk and shoot baskets and play racquetball.
But Mr. Mayor, you've done a great job of explaining kind of what we've been through, and it really was a coalition of organizations. It included Bethlehem House, United Way, City of Hope, CAPCA, Salvation Army. I mean, all of us trying to figure out what possibilities might be out there. And I have to say, Felicia and Kiera have been great to try to help us sort through any option. And all the options just fell away. And I think, the mayor brought up that there was one potential church. The Conway Ministry Center had a meeting of multiple pastors to try to figure out would any of the churches allow a facility, and one would, but as the mayor said, it's right in the middle of a neighborhood near an elementary school, and that brought other challenges. the group considered moving it around to different churches if a church would take it for a week or two. But what happens then is it's very difficult to get the people who need the help the information of where do you go tonight. And it becomes very complicated for the service providers to get the services there. And so having one location that everybody knows where it is, and it's my understanding that all of the service providers are going to be there to help with the warming station.
Ms. Mel, will there be transportation provided to people to get out to this? Because this is not a real conveniently located facility for this particular situation.
Yeah, that's a challenge for everybody. And I think any of the nonprofits that have transportation available are willing to do that. There's just not a lot.
Yeah.
And as the mayor mentioned, it's for this year only. Next year, I think, with our new facility, hopefully coming online. And again, you know, I can't say enough about what Felicia and Kiara have done, keeping that project moving. I think it was just that the property that the ministry center is in now being sold, and they have to be out. In fact, I think they're going to be out December 12th is when they're going to be moving out of their current facility.
Well, I just want to say this is a tough situation for everyone, and
yes, it is.
And no one, it's really not a really definitive answer where this should be. And I think if the city taking on this project should be good for us to show that we really care about people. And I appreciate what y'all are doing. Like I said, it's really not a place where everybody wants it to be. So for y'all to step up, I really appreciate it.
Well, and I do want to say throughout all of the conversations that I've had with the mayor and others in his office, it was always, we will have a warming center somewhere this year, this winter. And there was never a, well, we just can't do it this year. That was not one of the options. So I appreciated that. And I know the local nonprofits do too.
Well, and I think in light of what we're dealing with the COVID, a lot of people losing their jobs, a lot of people not knowing where their next meals are going to come from, we definitely need to be able to step up and take the lead in trying to at least provide them a warm place. So I applaud all of you, and thank you, Shelley, for your leadership as well.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Mel. And this it affects families, and like Mel said, this is one time. So, Councilor, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I would say we're lucky that we have the facility like that in Conway that can be used for this.
Yes.
So that's another wonderful asset we have to do. And I think maybe this year, I think all these agencies working together will probably learn a lot from having a facility like that. I know they had the ministry center last year and previous years, but this seems a little more coordinated effort. So I think a lot of folks will learn a lot from this, and it'll be great for a lot of people in the long term too.
I think it's a small price for us to pay that's going to pay big dividends in the future.
I think you're right. Ledbetter. Yes.
These are our neighbors, and that they're just there wasn't really any better options. So.
Right.
And we still have another sports center that will remain open. So
yes.
And we've got Chief Ledbetter and Captain Ledbetter and Chief Winter. Chief Winter was working with us back during Hurricane Katrina, so he's well versed in setting this all up. If we have to, we'll put Chief Ledbetter back online on that.
That's right. You have experience.
But
Can't
anyway,
stay up that late anymore.
I can't. But anyway, thank you all for your heart on that. And like I said, it does affect families, and we appreciate y'all's opportunity to let us move forward with that. Felicia did get on me. I'm sorry. There's one bit of business that we need to discuss.
Yeah. Item 8 on our agenda.
Yeah, I overlooked that. Bob Bell has approached the city about buying the property located at 1820, the Old Marlton Highway. That is the old Havens Grocery for all those that are old like me and Mr. Ledbetter. We can remember that. It's the old Havens Grocery, which is located immediately north or next door to Station 7, which is the North Fire Station up there across from Come and Go on Highway 64. The property appraised for $145,000. And all I wanted to do tonight was ask the council if y'all wanted us to pursue that or not. Mr. Claw, I did speak to Mr. Clausen about that. We can purchase that and lease that out or rent it out to another business.
I think we should. I know when we built that station, we had to acquire a little piece of that in order to build that station. They were very cooperative and it's give us a little wiggle room there at some point.
Yeah, I drive by it every day, and that would be a perfect location if we ever needed additional facilities for the fire department or any other department. It's not that far from animal welfare and others that could be out there too.
Okay. So
yeah, we ought to grab that while we can.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Yeah, they're not making any more. So I will take a motion if y'all are okay with us moving forward to purchase this property.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the property located at 1820 Old Malton Highway in the amount of $145,000. Any further discussion? Ms. Hurd.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Passes 7-0. And then the last little bit is just an announcement. The Office of Diversity, the Conway Police Department, along with my office and the Office of City Attorney, will host a roundtable via Zoom on December the 9th at 5 p.m. and you will all receive an invite. That is all the business I have for tonight. With that, I will take, council, let's talk about the December meetings right now. Of course, we know we have our first meeting in December. I know the date off the top of my head. The second one's December 22nd. Do y'all want to meet once in December or do y'all want to meet twice? I know some people are planning on traveling.
Once.
I was going to say, I think we typically tried to do one meeting historically in the month of December. If we could do that, I would definitely support that as well.
Okay, we can do that because we'll let the planning department and everyone know that we're going to do one meeting in December. So, all right, that's all I have. I appreciate everyone's time. I hope you all have a great Thanksgiving. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank
Happy
you.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.